Yeah, that's
Would
what I
you
use.
please? I appreciate it.
Yeah, if that doesn't work, he can just phone in with the phone number and at least he can listen and
Mark, did you
speak.
hear all that?
No,
Hey,
it's all garbled. It's all garbled to me.
Okay. Christine Holcomb is going to send you an email of the information that was sent out, okay, for how to get in. You can either do that,
Okay.
how you done.
What email is she going to send it? What email is she going to send it to?
Chris, what email are you sending it to?
The real one,
Real one?
real one Mark at Yahoo.
Real one Mark at
Okay,
Yahoo.
well, that's the problem. I changed that email a while back, but go ahead and send it to me. I'll open it up.
Okay, then you need to update with,
Yeah, that's the one we just got from Cindy.
Cindy.
yeah, from
Cindy.
Cindy. That's our new update from Cindy. That was the one we got. So you're gonna have to update with Cindy, okay?
All right, I'm waiting for it.
Okay. Christine, did you,
Yep, it's on its way.
it's on its way, okay?
Hmm.
All set, Mark?
Oh, okay. No, it's not come in yet, but when it does, I'll open it up and see if I can get in.
Okay, call me back.
Just click on the link.
Bye. All right. I'm sorry, I forgot where we were.
We approved the agenda.
Yeah. Yep.
Tom and Keith.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please. Waity.
Do we have to have a roll call to approve the agenda?
They kind of suggest, because of the way we're doing this via Zoom, to
Oh.
do so.
Oh,
All
let's,
right. In that case, let me get one of my old copies here.
Thank you.
Agenda. Keith Fell.
Yes.
Edward, oops, it is an old one. Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Robert
Yes.
Muesling. Robert.
Yes.
Whitey Simon, yes. Christine Holcomb.
Yes,
Harold Bain.
Yes.
Mark Borchardt.
I'm still not on.
Tom Kozel.
yes.
Kathy Schweikert.
Yes, thank you, Whitey. Item number 5 is approval of minutes.
I'll make
I'll
a
make the
motion.
most. Oh, go ahead. Go
I'll
ahead,
make a
Chris.
motion- I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of May 7th, 2020.
And I'll second.
Keith.
Yes.
Any discussion? If not, roll call again, please, Whitey.
Yes, ma'am. Keith Fell.
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen.
Yes.
Whitey Simon, yes. Christine Holcomb.
Yep,
Harold Bain.
Yeah.
Mark Borchardt. Waiting. Tom Kozel.
Yes.
Robert Muesling.
Yes.
Mark is here.
Kathy Schweikert.
Yes.
Thank you.
Christine, you just said Mark's now here?
Yes, he's joining right now.
Okay, we'll wait a moment then.
Okay.
Yes.
Mark, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. No picture, but we can hear you, okay?
I'm trying to get on.
Well, how about this? We're going to continue on. We are on item number 6 of our agenda. So we'll let you know when your picture pops up. Right now, we can just hear you. Item number 6, new
Does he
business.
agree with approval of the agenda?
Yes.
How about the minutes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is new business. I show no new business on our agenda. Item 6, well, it says 6A, public hearing. We'll go with that. First one is boathouses, and I am going to turn it over to whichever planner wants to do that.
I'll take this one. I think Eric's going to do the outdoor storage one. So, okay, so boathouses, this is a proposed amendment. Section 3.01 is your accessory building structures and uses. We've been discussing this for several months, including the joint meeting that we had with Township Board and ZBA. And this generally reflects the discussions that were held there. So for residential districts, we're making some amendments there specifying that the boathouse can exceed the principal building, but in all districts, the total square footage of all buildings on the site, including boathouses, shall not exceed 30% of the total lot area. This is in keeping with the 30% lot coverage. And then new language says that any accessory dwelling unit, whether otherwise permitted in this ordinance, may be permitted within the same structure as a boathouse, provided that the area designated as habitable space for the accessory unit has to be located entirely over land and shall not be over water. So you could split a structure as long as the dwelling portion is located over land. Also, there is some amendments to section C that deal with that boathouses shall not exceed 15 feet in height except as provided below. And so boathouses that shall not accommodate more than 2 boats unless they're in a commercial or an industrial district. Within commercial and industrial districts, the maximum boathouse height shall not exceed 25 feet. And then we've added some new language that deals with the enclosure of boathouses. And in residential districts, any new boathouse located between a principal structure and any open body of water constructed after this ordinance shall have open sides for a height not less than 8 feet above land level and enclose a distance not more than 3 feet down from the top. This shall not apply to boathouses that are constructed on canals, inlets, or other shoreline recesses that are not directly on an open body of water. And also number 2, this shall not apply to boathouses that are constructed in commercial or industrial districts. In districts where boathouses are permitted to have side enclosures, the total width of the boathouse structures shall not exceed 40% of the shoreline length of the subject property. Also, in commercial and industrial zoning districts, second level floors may be constructed along the interior perimeter of boathouses for the purposes of facilitating boat maintenance and construction. And then moving on to F, there's a specific provision. If you have a legally established non-conforming boathouse, you can maintain it and rehabilitate it, provided that the boathouse height and the footprint does not increase. There are some existing boathouses that are enclosed in residential areas that wouldn't be otherwise be permitted. If you have one of those and it meets this criteria, you can maintain it, and you can, if you have rotten wood, you can replace it, you can paint it, you can do all the regular maintenance that would normally be necessary. So that is a summary of the proposed amendments, and this would be a recommendation to the Township Board.
Thank you, Rod. I need to back up just 1 second because I should have said I opened the public hearing for the boathouses at 7:18, just so we have that on the record. And I'm also going to ask Christine Holcomb at this time to read public hearing comments and rules, please.
Okay, number 1, all comments must be made through the chairperson. Comments directed to the applicant from the audience are prohibited. 2, individuals wishing to speak have time limits, 3 minutes for each member of the general public and 6 minutes for a spokesperson of a larger group, such as a subdivision, association, condo association, business group, and similar groups. 3, anyone wishing to speak is asked to sign the sign-in sheet provided. However, anyone wishing to speak will be given the opportunity. 4, each individual will be allowed to speak once. It will be the chairperson's decision as to whether rebuttal comments will be allowed. 5, citizens may appoint a spokesperson to represent those who agree on a point of view. And 6, public comments on a specific public hearing request should be made during the public hearing for that item.
Thank you, Chris. All right. I'm going to ask anybody in the public who would like to speak.
I don't believe we have any public.
Wow.
There
Um,
may be two.
Know who the 703 number is?
I have no idea. And I have also I have a Siri on mine that's muted. I don't know what that is.
That's Shri. She's with our staff.
Okay. So the only one I see is the 703 number.
Looks like 703 just disappeared.
It's in the waiting room.
703, no, the number is still there.
It came back. Okay.
Can anyone hear on the 703 number?
Therese said that it's her audio.
It's who?
That's
SRI?
who is our staff.
Oh, okay. Thank
Oh,
you.
Yeah, for some reason, she's showing up twice. She just messaged me. So
Thank-
that's the same person.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to ask Christine, do I understand there is no one who's waiting to join as public at this point?
No, no one is waiting.
No one's waiting. Well, I guess since we don't have any public, I'll close the public hearing at 7:24 and ask the commissioners, any discussion, any questions?
I do have a question. Don't I ever? When you refer to open water, what does that mean? Most canals probably here are open water. Is that what you reference by open water?
No, it's actually defined in the footnote in the amendment. Open water includes Lake St. Clair, Anchor Bay, any other bay, river, channel, or similar body of water. So it's not meant to include internal canals in the lake.
It does not.
Does not.
Ah. That means my canal behind my house, I can do anything I want?
You can never do anything you want.
Well, I
You mean
know
the-
that, but.
You mean the
but,
front of your house, Whitey?
No.
Oh, yes. That is considered the front of your house according to Clay Township.
That's another discussion.
Yeah, no,
Well, all I'm just saying is, you Clayton Township, it says right there, wherever your mailbox, you pick up your mail, is considered the front of your house. I've had this discussion many a time, going all the way back to Walt Mitchell.
I don't disagree. We just had that come up at our last
Right.
meeting on people from, I'm 29. So
Right, exactly.
we definitely, I think I've reached out to Rod and I also reached out to Janelle about that question. So
That's going to have to be addressed.
It's a separate discussion, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
separate discussion.
The whole idea of front yard and waterfront.
But the
is just a-
canal that has a highway connecting to the south channel would not be open water then?
No, that wouldn't be considered open water.
Would
Open
not?
water is like Rod says, like on the front of your house, you can't build a boathouse because that's considered open water. That's a closed-in canal.
It has a highway connection to the south channel.
But it has retainers on both sides. Whitey, that would be considered a canal.
Okay.
How about like Big Fisher Highway? Is that a canal?
Big Fisher Highway, you're talking about underneath the bridge?
No, across from Browns there, runs kind of parallel behind McDonald Island, and
Well, yeah, that would still be, yeah,
it's pretty wide.
because that comes off by Browns and there's property on both sides. It's not facing
Right.
an open water area.
Okay. I presume that the connection to the open water would be open water too. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, I have, you're sitting on the ZBA. I keep getting hammered on the height. The boathouse shall not exceed 15 feet. I don't have a problem with the 15-foot height, but it seems apparently that most people do. And I'm not understanding why. Because I don't think they're reading the ordinance right. It's from the center of the half wall to the top of the rake. And most of the people don't even know what they're looking at when they're designing a boathouse. Because you're going with 25 foot on the commercial and you're only allowing 15 on the residential. And I get that, Rod, why we have for the commercial, I get that totally. But everybody's complaining about the 15 feet for the residential.
What are they
And
looking for?
they're looking to go higher. And I'm not understanding why.
Second floor.
Yeah, it's probably for something that's not, they're not supposed to be doing.
Exactly, but they're saying that now with the new boats, the roofs, the ceilings, the tops, or whatever you want to call them, are higher because they're sitting out of the water higher, that they won't fit under some of the boathouses.
Have they given you a specific number? Like, is it a matter of 2 more feet, or is it a matter of 1 foot?
It comes up. It's like, yeah, well, the last one we just did, the guy really didn't understand it. He put like 22 feet high, and no, and I said, why? And then after he figured it out, he goes, no, 50 foot's the right height. But I've had another boathouse in the ZBA come up where they needed a 16 foot. So, I mean, I'm good with the 50.
Yeah,
But I think it's going to come up again.
The reason I asked the question is if 1 foot makes a difference, then consider making it 16 feet. If that's a standard that seems to be that you're going to be coming, we don't want someone going to the ZBA all the time for 1 foot if it makes a difference.
But they're coming in with all different sizes. They're coming in with all different sizes.
Can you hear me? I sound like a commercial. Can you hear me? Where do they start measuring the 15 feet from? The water line, the dock? Where? The bottom of the river?
Where do they start from? It's land.
Well, what they're talking about is the total height of the boathouse.
The grade.
Do they measure that from the seawall, the top of the seawall cap?
No, the grade is considered to be the mean or average ground level of the land which the boathouse is accessed. That's what it says in your current.
Okay.
Right. So they go from the ground height, 15 feet high.
Right. And that's to the midpoint of the.
So those people are complaining because the high water, or not?
He didn't say high water. He just said he had a pretty good sized boat and fit in there. But after they sat and figured out the calculations of the roof height versus the truss, because the guy he brought in scissor trusses, which came in at like 20 some feet high. And after you figure it out, when you bring it down, it worked out to the 15 foot. So, I mean, people have to understand where they're measuring from.
Sure. Okay.
Because some people are just not getting our ordinances. No matter how hard we try to simplify them, they're not understanding.
Any other commissioners have comments they want to?
I do. 8B addresses having living like habitable space. Does that?
You're not coming through.
And E.
Robert?
Yes.
You got to get closer to your microphone. We can't really hear you.
Does 8B with the habitable space and E for sanitary facilities on E, is that strictly for a second floor, or is that encompassing the habitable space? Because I know before we talked about not having any sanitary or anything over the water.
Right. You cannot have sanitary over the water. You can't have sanitary in a boathouse. If you have a portion of the boathouse that extends over land, you could put an accessory dwelling, and that could actually have sanitary facilities as long as those facilities are over land.
Correct. So that's what I'm saying is 8B and E conflicting each other with the sanitary facilities.
No, because this is referring to boathouses in general. Under the other provision, which is B, that's specifically talking about when you have an accessory dwelling unit.
Okay.
So you would have to have the accessory dwelling unit to be able to get to sanitary facilities.
Could a person attach a boathouse right to their house, like an attached garage?
Potentially.
Yeah,
It would
because
be,
that would be,
it would be,
that would-
it'd be, it would have to meet all the setbacks of the principal
buildings.
structure then.
So,
Yeah, it's just like you can attach your garage to your house. You
Right,
can
that's what I was-
attach an accessory structure, right?
okay,
And we have some of those and had a lot more.
right.
yeah.
Any other comments from commissioners?
I think it's
Questions?
pretty good. You know, it's hard to be 100%. There's always going to be something, right? But this
Seems
looks
to
a lot
be.
better than what we had.
Mhm.
Yeah, it seems to answer the questions we had at that joint meeting, I think.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with it. I think it's a good ordinance and everything that goes along with it. Now that we've adjusted it for the boathouses, because that takes a lot of work off the ZBA for non-conforming and you know, what's the hardship? Nobody ever had a hardship for a boathouse. Correct? So, I mean,
Correct.
this is gonna alleviate a lot of the ZBA work.
As far as the height, man, you could sit there and buy different boats all day long with different heights.
Exactly, and if that comes down to the ZBA over a height, that'll have to be a case-by-case basis.
But that's self-imposed again too, because he could have bought one, a lower one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It would be a case-by-case basis on that one.
What if you got a
The
sail?
only issue I could see with the height is if somebody had a sailboat.
You don't sail it into the slip.
Well, wait a minute. No. You just cut the roof out so the sail goes into
Put a knot.
it. You leave a little slit through the roof so you can park it.
Good job, guys. Christine, do you have any questions, comments? Anybody else? Keith?
Nope, I'm good. I don't see any issues with this ordinance whatsoever.
No.
So then the next step would be making a motion, correct, Rod?
All right, motion for recommendation to Township Board.
Yep.
I'll make that motion. I would make the motion to recommend. I will
May I
make
ask a
a
question?
move to, oh,
Well,
go
does
ahead.
it go straight to the Township Board or does it go to,
Well, it goes to the county but your recommendations to the Township Board.
okay, thank you. Just looking for clarification on that.
I will move to recommend to the Township Board to approve and adopt this ordinance as presented.
I'll
Zoning
second
ordinance
that.
amendment number 126.
Who is seconding it?
Harold,
Harold.
Yes, sir. I think it's a well-written ordinance.
Did you have support?
And we can just reference that in the motion, right? We don't have to read it right now. Right? Yes? No?
Yes, if it's as written, just say as written. Yeah, that's not a problem.
That's why I said as written, yes.
As presented for the public hearing.
Okay, so you understand the motion? Yep. Okay, Whitey, are you ready to do a roll call?
Hold on, I got a comment.
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
With this ordinance, is it going to clear up all the related complaints or issues that we have had in the past about boathouses?
I'm going to say.
No.
There's never a guarantee.
No.
It should about 75 to 80%, Mark.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. What?
I said this.
He said
should-
75
We had one boathouse. We had one boathouse recommended or ordinance. Then we have another boathouse ordinance, and those two boathouse ordinances clashed. Is that issue going to be cleared up with this ordinance?
Should be.
It was commercial versus residential.
Oh, yeah. No,
Well, it's spelled
It's in
out
there.
what's commercial and what's residential.
we've
Pretty clear.
clarified that. Yes.
I know it's spelled out, but I want to hear it verbally.
It's in the motion and I
You
don't
have
know-
it in black and white.
Yeah. let's put it this way. It's part of the issue came up when we got a different building inspector in their interpretation. So this is in black and white. We've had it in our position to read. There's nothing 100% guaranteed. We should all learn that by now. We fix one thing and something else comes up next. So this is the best we can do at this point. If somebody has more input, we're all willing to listen, but nothing's guaranteed. So I don't know if that helps you at all, Mark, but I'm not sure other than the motion, anybody hit, it's going to be.
I understand nothing's guaranteed, but go ahead and continue on.
And just one observation,
Sure.
Assuming this moves forward and is approved by the township board, I think it's going to be important that the ZBA realizes that this is the recommendation and the ordinance, in fact, from the township board of how they see this being regulated. And this needs, you know, there's always going to be somebody who might come and ask for some kind of relief. And that relief really needs to be tied to some practical difficulty associated with the property, and not just because they want something bigger or want something different. And since we've gone through this, it's very important now that the ZBA kind of uphold the ordinance unless they're presented with a true practical difficulty. And that way people will know that that's the rule and everyone's got to follow it, and you're not going to get relief unless there's some very unusual circumstance.
Thank you, Rod.
Thank you. Perfect.
Harold, we're counting on you to relay the message, okay?
Oh,
Madam Chair,
trust me, I'll be relaying.
And if you need somebody to reaffirm that, I'm sure you can reach out to any of us and we'll do our best, okay?
There's no reaffirming. I'm just going to give each one of them a copy of this and tell them this is the new ordinance. Get used to it.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Yes.
I just wanted to say, this is going to the township board, and if there is an issue that they think is still not clear enough for them, will they then refer it back to us for expanded language, or?
Yes, they would refer it
Well,
back.
it'll just be not approved.
Oh, you guys, the township board's referred other things back to us numerous times, so it's not going to be an unheard of thing if they do so.
But the reason I asked the question is when it does come before the board, at least I have something, you know, something to talk about as far as
right.
what's cleared up and what isn't.
I would hope that the township board would be specific, though, as to what they're having an issue with, if anything.
I'm sure Artie, during the process of the approval of it, will declare that he did all of this by himself and we're good to go.
Oh, Mark.
We're going to move on from that one right now, but I think we can figure that one all out. I've lost track of where we were.
Mark, turn on your video. I want to see you when you talk like that.
I believe we had a motion and
for a
a
roll
second.
call.
Okay, everybody wait a second. Everybody wait a second. I believe we had a motion, we had a second. I believe I had asked for a roll call from Whitey, and then Mark had a couple of questions. So
Yes.
we'll go back to roll call from Whitey, please.
All right. Keith Fell,
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen,
Yes.
Robert Musling,
Yes.
Whitey Simon, yes. Christine Holcomb,
Yes.
Harold Bain,
Yes.
Mark Borchardt,
Yes.
Tom Kozel,
Yes.
and Kathy Schweikart.
Yes, thank you, Whitey.
Thank you.
I'm going to now move on to item 6A2, which is shipping containers, and whoever from the planners are going to help us with that one.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to attempt to, oh, can I share my screen or no?
Yeah, go right ahead.
It says it's disabled by the host.
It is. Now, how did we disable that?
Not a big deal if it's.
Hold on.
Don't disable Eric this soon.
I went to more. I don't see where I get to share. How about do this? Share screen? Share?
Oh, you're sharing your screen.
That's not working.
Yeah,
Nope.
that's your screen.
It's not a big deal. I can go
The view
through it.
options, you hand it off.
So I'll just run through the ordinance. Section
Eric, I
1.
think I found it. Try it again.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Thank you.
Public hearing, open one.
Public hearing is opened at 7:42.
Thank
So
you.
the other one got closed. Mhm.
Okay, so this is a little more straightforward than the boathouses issue. Section 1 provides a definition for shipping containers. This started with a general concern that people would be placing shipping containers on property for either short-term or long-term storage. So the definition provides clarity in cases where there may be some gray areas as far as what a shipping container is or isn't, if it's not clear. So it's important to have that definition provided in the code. 3.01 is the general standards for accessory building structures and uses. So we're adding a 16 here that starts to address shipping containers and points to section 316, which includes the specific standards we're adding. And there's 3 standards we're adding under the outdoor storage provisions you currently have. So 6 and 7 deal with temporary portable shipping containers. 6 provides a limited size allowance, approvable locations on either an approved driveway or within a side or rear yard, and then a limitation on 30 consecutive days within any 12-month period. And then also some additional placement standards that you typically find with buildings, such as setbacks and not being within streets or easements. 7 provides additional standards for temporary shipping containers, a limitation of 1 per parcel, and that these containers must coincide with construction of a residence and be removed within a certain amount of time. We ask in your motion, if you make one tonight, that you provide a motion first to change the last sentence there, the 48 hours to 7 days. That was discussed at the last meeting. So the container would have to be removed within 7 days of final building inspection, not 48 hours. I think there was a concern that that might be too limiting. And then lastly, 8 is for permanent shipping containers. We provided some architectural standards, such as pedestrian scaled doors and siding if someone chooses to construct a permanent shipping container or reuse a shipping container for a storage set or other buildings such as that. And then there are additional standards in that second paragraph if the container is visible from a street or residential units. There's specific cladding requirements for wood. Metal cannot be used on the exterior cladding, and then some roof pitch standards that would relate to that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. I'm going to move to any public that wishes to make any comments. Christine, nobody?
Nope.
Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:45. Board members, anybody questions, comments?
Yeah, they're ugly.
Oh, I do have one.
Second that.
I do have one question that because Whitey's probably going to realize why I'm asking this. The ones that are now in place, the shipping containers, how does that affect the ones that are just recently placed, Whitey?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I have one that I can look at every time I walk towards the street.
Was it legally established?
No, because the township's closed. He doesn't really have it, and I didn't dare tell him that we were working on it. And since I'm not enforcement, I didn't want to tell him anything. But I have 2 houses down from me, a 20-foot, I guess, by 8 foot by whatever height it is, sitting between, in the front yard.
You don't have a vested right unless it was legally established.
Well, when he told me about establishing the container, he indicated to me that he saw one, and Harold, you know, the one Doug has?
Oh, yeah, I know where it is.
And I don't know, he talked to Doug, and Doug told him, there's nothing the township can do, it's a shed.
Yep, that's exactly that's what he told me too. And he told me that somebody told him to put a roof on it and there's nothing we can do about it.
So they're
And
located on the properties right now, correct?
There's also one on Fraser, right on the right of way, right in county property.
Yeah,
And that's been
not
there for
permitted.
4 years.
I want to ask Rod your thoughts.
Yeah, well, if like I said, it has to be legally established to have a vested right. So if it's in the county right away, unless they have a permit from the road commission to put it in the right of way, then it's not legal. And if it's somewhere else, if it's in the front yard and it doesn't meet the accessory structures provisions that currently exist in the ordinance, and they don't have a permit for it, then it's not legally established. So only those that are legally established would typically be able to continue.
Well, how about this? They got a 500-gallon pig attached to it with a heater in it. I think he's pretty much established his own rights there, which we don't have any enforcement in this community, so how can we say anything?
That's another topic.
Yes.
Yep.
That's another topic.
Rod, I'm not directing that at you. Please do not take it that way.
I don't do enforcement.
Okay. And
That's right. You don't do enforcement.
No, I would only remark that I could almost envision that if you put a roof on there, put siding on that thing that's sitting 2 houses down from me, painted appropriately, you have an accessory structure. But a shipping container sitting there as a shipping container should not be considered an accessory structure by any means.
anybody else besides Whitey have some comments or questions? Robert?
I may. For temporary portable shipping, it's included, the shipping containers include transport truck trailers, which if you hire, and I know it's not going to be common in smaller houses and stuff, but if one of the mansions on the island or bigger houses on the island or whatever, hire a moving company to come in and they bring a transport truck trailer, which is covered under this ordinance, the trailer is not going to be 20 feet. It's going to be 48 feet long. And it may be there for a day or two, but how would we address that? So if they bring a moving company in to move a house and it warrants a semi-truck trailer for the moving company to bring it in to load it up, that's going to be 48 foot, not 20.
Well, first you got to get it on the ferry.
Well,
I'm not trying to be funny.
I just said the island, but any of the houses along the river, or you know what I'm saying, any house that could be bigger that could warrant a semi-truck trailer coming in to move it, if they have to bring it in for a day or two, what predicaments are we going to run into with this ordinance if they have to bring a semi-truck trailer in to move it?
Well, it's in the provision here for it's temporary.
Yeah, this really isn't written towards a trailer that's moving a modular house or something like that. This is for without wheels that's going to be dropped on the ground.
Because we already have a large one. By the Mayberry Cut, there's a 40, it looks like maybe a 30 or 40 footer sitting right on the ground. We have a large one right now on the island that they're using as storage.
Well, and I'm just saying because it's under the temporary.
Can't hear you.
Section 3.16. It says one temporary portable shipping container not to exceed 8 feet in width, 10 feet in height, and 20 feet in length.
Can't hear you.
I don't know if I can get. Hold on.
That's better. That's better.
Better.
That was better.
Section 3.16, with number 6 is talking for temporary on-site for sitting in the side yard or rear for loading material up from a house or whatever. And I'm not even talking about the under the accessory buildings. I'm talking the, temporary. It puts a 20-foot limit on it. And
Yeah.
if somebody is moving and they bring a semi-truck trailer into a packing company and one of the big packing companies, moving companies, and they bring a semi-truck, that semi-truck trailer is 42 feet long. And
This doesn't apply if you're
goes-
actively moving. If you're actively moving over a 1 to 2 day period and you bring a truck in, that's just loading and unloading and moving. That's not a storage of a unit on your property.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not going to apply. That limit isn't going to apply.
I guess it tries to explain that on the last line of that first page. No temporary portable storage container shall be placed in the front and rear yard setback. So I think that references that as a temporary storage.
Right.
Tom, any questions, comments?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. How about you, Mark?
I'm good with it.
Okay. Harold, you all set?
Oh, yeah, I'm done.
Keith?
I'm good.
And I'm going to go with Chris. How about you? Any questions, comments? I know you're new to this whole, I'm sorry, it's probably rather overwhelming.
No, it's okay. I'm just watching and learning, and I've read through them. I have no questions.
No questions. Okay. Christine, how about you?
I'm good.
Okay. With no other question or comments, it kind of follows the same procedure as the last one, right?
And we're asking for a motion to amend number 7, the 48 hours
Correct.
to 7 days first before you recommend.
That's paragraph 7, right?
Yep,
Yes.
paragraph 7.
Mhm.
It says remove within 48 hours, but Eric wants
Yeah, I
7
know.
days put on there.
No.
Do you
Madam
need-
Chair, I'll make,
Go ahead, Christine. I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to amend the amendment to section 2.02 section 3.16 outdoor storage in residential district under number 7 to change it from 48 hours to 7 days.
I second it.
Chris and Tom.
Are we taking this as written again?
Just amending that one section for now.
Amending one
Okay.
section.
Well, can we make the motion to approve to move to recommend with that section amended? So it's all in one motion?
Because I think you really should do it as a separate motion because it was presented for the public hearing as one language, and it's better to do an amendment to that first.
Gotcha.
So we need 2 motions. The one that's now on the floor. Sue, do you have that taken care of?
I'll
Because
second.
first we did what? Okay. So we have the motion, we have support, any discussion? Whitey, are you ready to do a roll call for that particular motion, please?
Yes, just let me write down the paragraph number 3.67.
3.16 section 7. I'm sorry, 3.16 number 7.
Yeah, no, I got that. From 48 hours to a week.
7 days.
To 10 days. Jeez.
7.
Got it.
Rod,
7 days.
7
Right.
days.
7.
can I ask a question, Rod? Do we need to specify 7 consecutive days?
Probably not a bad idea here. Hold on a minute. Well, I think if it's 7, it says it would be within 7 days of final building inspection. I think
Okay,
I don't think that's going to be an issue. I don't think you have to say that.
okay.
I think 7 days
Just
is
want to
clear.
make sure.
Okay, that's 7 days. Okay. I'm ready. Everybody else ready?
Yes.
Ready when you are.
Keith,
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen,
Yes.
Whitey Simon, yes. Christine Holcomb,
Yes.
Harold Bain,
Yeah.
Mark Borchardt,
Yes.
Tom Kozel,
Yes.
Robert Muesling,
Yes.
Kathy Schweikert.
Yes. Thank you, Whitey.
Thank you.
No, now we'll move on to the second motion.
And that would be to recommend approval to outdoor storage in residential districts. Is that right?
Yeah,
As written?
as amended this evening.
Outdoor storage in residential as amended. Okay, I so move.
I'll second it.
It's
Tom?
Tom. Tom,
Yes.
I was just letting Whitey know it was you for a second. Sue, are you all set with that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Whitey, let me know when you're ready.
Always ready.
All right, so.
Roll call.
Yes, please.
Keith Fell,
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen,
Yes.
Robert Muesling,
Yes.
Whitey Simon, yes. Christine Holcomb,
Yes.
Harold Bain,
Yes.
Mark Borchardt,
Yes.
Tom Kozel,
Yes.
Kathy Schweikert.
Yes, thank you, Whitey.
Okay, got that one too.
Okay, that should take care of item number 6. So I'm going to move on to item number 7, which is unfinished business, which shows nothing. So I'm going to now move on to item number 8, planning consultant report, master plan. Go ahead, planners.
Oh, geez.
Okay. So you should have received a couple of items from us. One is an updated draft of the master plan update, and then also a memo that goes over some key items that we want to discuss with you this evening. So I thought maybe what would make sense is to start off by going over the memo and just hitting some of those highlights. So if I'm going to try to share my screen now, see what happens.
I don't think that's your screen.
Hold on.
Didn't even recognize that guy.
I don't either.
Okay, hold on one second.
We have all night.
There we go.
Don't you worry.
Here we go. All right. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Getting there.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so we're going to start off by having a discussion. By the way, the draft has been amended to include a lot of new information. So I know we have a lot of potential information to discuss, but we want to focus first on commercial land use and in this case, even a mixed use area. In the previous master plan, the concept of the East End district over close to Algonac, where the Kroger and all of the mix of uses currently exists, was discussed as evolving into something as a walkable district. And we'd like to see this idea continue and then maybe even expand it a little bit. This happens to be an area where the Bridge to Bay Trail will be constructed along Point Trumbull through this area with a separate bike lane. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's a buffered bike lane, and there's a cross section that we showed you that came from that plan. And then there's also sidewalks that have at least been started in part in this area and would be completed to the point where you could have a very walkable and bikeable area that could serve as a hub for some additional tourism, for smaller retail, restaurant, and service uses that would be placed closer to the road to kind of maybe extend out that city or more urban feel where you feel like you're walking in a we like to describe the roadway when you have the buildings closer to the roadway. We like to say you're creating a room somewhere where you feel comfortable because you're enclosed on two sides and you have a place to walk and you feel comfortable as a pedestrian. So the idea here is that if there's future retail or future restaurant uses, they would be up closer to the road. We wouldn't have large big box uses. In fact, you could have more liner uses in front of the Kroger where there's currently parking, because chances are that parking is rarely used and maybe never used. And the demand for parking is decreasing with most land uses, particularly as we have delivery options available and other pickup options and the like. So people aren't parking as much when they go to retail uses. So you have an opportunity with that to actually create a more walkable space. So the idea is that we would also potentially see small hotels or bed and breakfast inns, and then some small footprint multiple family uses would be incorporated, what we often call missing middle housing. So things like duplexes, quadplexes that look like single family homes, courtyard apartments, small single story or at most two-story apartments with a courtyard. These are all traditional small footprint multiple family uses that would go hand in hand with the waterfront use. It would go hand in hand with a tourism base, and would also help support the retail and the restaurant uses. So that county trails plan, by the way, envisions a shared path on the north side and then a sidewalk on the south side. So as I mentioned, you're really able to accommodate a variety of user types. So we have a few questions related to that East End concept. Does Planning Commission still feel like that makes sense? Are you comfortable with that framework? And how do you like the mix of uses, focusing on the smaller scale retail uses and restaurant uses, and no more boxes, and potentially having a small hotel and some missing middle housing? So we have a number of questions here, and I guess I'll just turn it over and see if Planning Commission has any comments on this.
Any commission members? Anybody want to start? Any comments?
Yeah, I do, Rod. What do you mean by reduce the front yard setbacks along Point Trumbull?
What that means is essentially not having parking in front of the buildings. So bringing the buildings all the way up to the road right of way, up against the sidewalk or the bike path as it is, and make it so that you're creating an opportunity. And if it's the bike path side, you probably would have some type of sidewalk between the front of the building.
Okay.
And
I got where you're going.
Yeah, it's creating that kind of a villagey type kind of atmosphere.
Like old Algonac.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's a perfect spot to do that.
Yeah. And where do you envision seeing the quadplexes and that? Because I'm looking at your little bit of a paper here. Are you envisioning that somewhere by the Krogers?
That would be more on the south side, the water side, where there's more depth there. And I mean, there could be some on the north, but really I see that more on the south side, so you can incorporate that in closer to the water, because people would want to obviously live closer to the water, and you would have an opportunity to increase that opportunity by having those types of units closer to the water.
How much right-of-way exists on that side of the road? Do you know? When you start talking about bike paths.
What exists today? Gee, I don't know that number offhand. Matt, do you know?
want to say it's 60 there. If I'm recalling correctly, the two cross sections that are provided in the St. Clair County plan looks like it's about a 60 or 66
60
foot right.
feet?
So if I go to the actual plan, it's,
Between
oh,
66 and 80.
oh, you,
Well-
yeah, we have the cross section here, actually. I can
Would,
scroll down.
would that work if you actually had to put, if you got busy enough down there and you put a left turn lane for both lanes, would that work through there?
Yeah, when you put in a center left turn lane, you can usually fit that in. Yeah, that's actually what they're showing here. So if you see, here's Point Trimble, there's your center turn lane down the middle, one lane in each direction. The sidewalk's over here.
Got it.
The bike is over here. So yeah, that absolutely. You get your turn lane, you get your buffer, you get everything.
And that top one is the 66 foot right away, and the one below it's the 80 foot.
Yeah, this is the Dyke Road. So this is to the west, not in this area. So this would be by Pearl Beach.
Yeah.
Going to need a wider right of way in this area. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I got one question: that the existing housing's there, would that support that wider right of way? Well, because it looks like some of the older houses by Pearl Beach where Cheers used to be is almost on top of the right of way.
Well, typically you have a statutory right of way of 33 feet from the center line, the 66 feet wide.
Right.
And that's what they're showing here for this,
Okay.
for the Point
10,
Trimble
20.
component.
Got it.
Yeah.
So that should cover that situation. Because you have that highway easement of 66 feet, which is virtually everywhere is a basis for the.
And let me ask you one question, because my uncle used to live right over there on Point Trimble, and his lot was 560 feet deep. Would we allow people to actually build like a duplex or a quadplex on the front part of their lot? Could you write some kind of thing for that? Because I know most people would build a secondary income property there if they could build a secondary part, close to the road.
Yeah, that would be part of what would happen with the ordinance amendment. What would likely happen is you would prefer to have more of a non-residential use up close to the road, but maybe right behind that you could have a duplex and then have some, you want to integrate more of those residential uses between the water and the commercial use that's fronting on the road. So yes, so that all gets worked out in zoning.
Yeah. Okay.
So we would have to probably create a new zoning district to provide the flexibility for this to happen.
Right.
And that's one of the recommendations.
Any other planning commission comments from the members here? Not hearing anything.
Okay. Well, I'll move on. We can, this is not the final discussion, but anyway, this is a graphic that shows you that missing middle housing. And then this is the graphic from the current plan, which shows that existing Kroger site. So that's, I think we've covered that, and we've talked about zoning implementation. It's possible that a new zoning district could be written for this, and a lot of it could apply to the San Souci area and could even apply to Pearl Beach, depending upon what the vision is. So we do see a need for potentially updating or adding another layer of waterfront residential that would cover the area from that east end district that we just talked about to where approximately where the ferry crossing is. It gets the property on the water side gets a lot shallower there, so it's not really conducive to mixed use, but it could be conducive to having some of these other housing types allowed. So we would like to explore that as well, having a waterfront residential district that has a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more density than your other waterfront residential districts, to be able to take advantage of that. Once again, trying to keep some more rooftops closer to that, it would still be walkable to the east end district. So we want to try to provide for that walkability and get some more rooftops there. So that would be something too that we would like to explore if you're good with identifying a slightly more intense and more creative waterfront residential district basically from the ferry east to where the East End district starts. That would be the vision for that.
And gives more people an opportunity to enjoy the water.
That's exactly right. Take advantage of your asset that you have in a location that makes sense.
As far as the Pearl Beach area is concerned, I don't think there's any area or any improvement that we can make as far as residential is concerned, or I think it should stay pretty much recreational activity.
Yeah, that's one of the questions we have. Do you see this as staying as primarily a recreational destination? And that's we're looking for input on that. Or do you see the potential for more retail, commercial, or mixed uses? I know you do have the floodplain issue, which is going to be a challenge to anything that happens there.
Right.
It's pretty much all in the floodplain, and so it makes it more difficult to do a lot there. So it requires cutting, filling, balancing, getting permits, and the like. So.
And then that last bullet point on there, the previous master plan suggested that the township purchase the marina building. That's just to the east of the site there.
Yeah, that's
we weren't sure if that was still something that should be included in this version for later consideration, or where to go with that.
Well, that property was bought by
Gabriel.
Darren Gabriel.
And he has, I think he's doing something there right now.
He's running his business out of there.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to go away. I think he's still going to maintain that building.
That's what we wanted to try to get some answers on. So we'll revise the recommendation then.
No, this was nice probably 5-7 years ago when we started talking about that. The property seemed to be available and we just didn't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. We bought the lot right next to Johnny Liga.
Well, that was only what?
Beer that's always been there, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, that was
Party
cheap.
store.
I get that, but that was a North Channel party store at the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Does the township still own that, Mark? Do you know?
Yes. That
Okay.
whole parking lot? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so mostly sticking with the residential theme. Maybe some, if another restaurant wants to pop up by the road, something like that might be okay, but primarily more of a status quo recreation based.
How would you start, excuse me, how would you start to implement anything like this?
Well, I would foresee potentially taking a look at the zoning along the roadway, because I do think that it makes some sense in some of these areas to maybe allow some infill non-residential use, more restaurants or some retail that is recreation oriented. You know, that could make some sense here. So that would involve looking at the zoning ordinance to make that happen. And then the recreational can be a combination of public and private. So some of it is already public, some of it's private. And you could modify the zoning ordinance for a district here that specifies more private, commercial, water-oriented, private recreation uses that might be acceptable. And we could work that out through zoning as to what those are. But that might be an option, is to encourage more private recreation uses that would be in keeping with the waterfront theme.
You know, I know there are a few, I don't know how many, I'm going to call them thoroughfares that go from Point Trumbull down to the water in between the residential areas.
Mm-hmm.
If we can identify those areas, may be able to utilize that. I know you got one street, Butterfield, and probably 3 or 4 other streets that go all the way to the water that are public access. Nobody knows it, but they're there.
Okay. Look at that. Any other comments on this area? All right, move on to San Souci. Your previous master plan called for an expansion area, a village expansion, waterfront development, basically just right next door to the existing area as we know it. So we have a couple of questions. As we look at this area, there's mostly all developed structures, mostly residential, all in this area. Could this be a place where the zoning district would encourage preservation of those structures, but maybe incorporation of non-residential uses into those? So maybe turning a house, I think you already have maybe one bed and breakfast there, but turning bed and breakfast would be allowed. Or maybe if somebody wanted to put a small accessory structure in their side yard where you could rent bicycles, that would be okay. Or other uses like that that kind of support what you're trying to encourage in that district, but not necessarily demolishing all the structures and actually building new commercial structures there. So that's kind of what we see is trying to support day trips in this area too. And that's what a bike shop could do, for example, or even maybe a portable bicycle repair station if you couldn't support a bike shop. But just different types of amenities and different types of supplemental uses that might work with the existing infrastructure rather than rebuilding everything. So we wanted to have a discussion with you and see what your vision is and how you feel about that.
Well, when you talk about a bike shop, it would seem to me almost that you need maybe one right across from the ferry at the old bank building so that you could walk across, rent a bicycle there, and then take a tour of the rest of the island. The only thing is, as we just found out, the bar is gone. We will have a coffee grinding facility shortly. We have a distillery already running, and we have a market. The sad part in that area is that the largest piece of property that could have been developed into something is the property between La Croix, between the corner and the riverfront, and perhaps the other side of where we now have the bar and or parking lot in that area, which is now owned by Kevin Wazorek, that whole area back there. That would have been a nice place to have developed. Again, we don't have the money to buy it. We didn't have it. It's all gone. So that, to me, the bicycle shop would be better located at the bank across the ferry, because if you drive down to San Souci, you don't have a parking spot.
Well, that's just not the only problem we have at San Souci. You don't have any parking, and we're going to have to come up with some kind of waste facility treatment for the town, because the town will never expand anything without some sort of waste treatment facility. Now, I've been looking at it, Rod, and I want to send you something that there's a place in Hoboken, New Jersey that sells portable treatment plants.
Yeah, there's small batch treatment plants that have been installed in many locations.
Yes.
And in Michigan. They've been installed in Michigan too.
Right. And I'm thinking about if we want to do something with the San Souci district, we have to first start at the facilities first. I hate to say it. We have the water, we have the gas, we have everything we need, but restroom facilities. We can't expand nothing until we get that.
Well, and this ties into a bigger discussion, and it's related.
Right.
Does the Planning Commission see all of Harson's Island as being served by sanitary sewer? And
I think
Because,
that,
for example, an extension like that could potentially come with a bridge, could be constructed
you.
at the same time and in the same right of way. And,
well,
you know, it's obviously very complicated, but I think it's a question that we should be asking. Is that something that's desirable?
I think we should be incorporating a bridge on the master plan, but I also think that with these portable facilities that I've been looking at, you can just about drop them anywhere and they can be separated by themselves. So you don't have to tie in for the whole system.
It's true. They can be totally separate. I mean, obviously the risk you run is what happens when they fail.
Right. Well, of course, that's with anything.
But sure. But yeah, no, they've been used, and that it is definitely something that could be explored.
Well, yeah, but I think we have to go with that. And I mean, I see, because Cummings Bake Shop used to be commercial. The property next to the Lions Club right there, Halee's property, used to be commercial. You used to have the Island Video that used to be commercial, and then for some reason they got rezoned out, and now they're back to residential. But we need to expand a commercial district coming down LaCroix going into San Souci.
Mm-hmm.
You know where I'm going with that? And
Yeah.
like,
Well,
why didn't we cut off the street right there at like where Williams is and just have that where the historical society is, have that street right there for parking for people in town so they can come around the backside of Williams and get into the buildings and get into the subdivision. I mean, we should be looking at that too, of just, I mean, what's it, a 60-foot wide street there technically? I mean, you could park some cars there.
yes.
Because everybody that owns the buildings in front there owns the parking lot right to the street. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. So, I mean, that's something.
Yeah, parking is a big deal there. If you want that area to succeed,
Right.
you're going to need more. But what we're also hoping, and it ties into the non-motorized plan, is that
Exactly.
by actually building a bike facility that families will feel comfortable riding on, which is
Exactly.
a buffered bike lane similar to what you saw in Point Trimble in that graphic.
Sure.
Right.
If we build that and loop that throughout the island, as we're going to show you, I think that presents an opportunity to encourage more people. Because right now, the only people that are really going to bike down roads that are not right in the village area there are going to be experienced bikers, because people don't feel comfortable biking in the same lane as somebody going 40 to 45 miles per hour. But if you can
55.
yes, exactly. But if you can separate them by a buffered bike lane, then you change the game and you make it so that more people will visit there. And if you can increase your parking and you can increase your bike traffic, then all of a sudden you enhance the potential viability of other businesses there, and the district can really start to grow. And
Right.
that, I think that's what you're talking about. I mean, that's
That's
you need
exactly.
more people.
That's exactly what we're talking about. I mean, because right now the bar's gone. I don't know how much longer. I mean, look, you don't have the landing is gone. Middle channel's gone. There's nothing here anymore.
Nope.
Well, hopefully there'll be another restaurant that'll come in.
Well,
so-
I'm sure there is going to be. The bar will probably reopen and just reformulate of what it is.
Sure.
But still, we're not getting enough traffic on the island to support any business on the island.
Right. And so some of the things you can do are the ones we're talking about, and start to build that base so that
Wholeheartedly.
you have more visitors.
Wholeheartedly.
I guarantee you, if you made it so that this became a biking destination for bicycle riders, and you made the facilities and put in all the support network, you would get day trips on the weekend and throughout the summer of people who want to bike ride. You have so many things to see on that island. If you
And actually, Rod, they used to come here in droves with bikes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened. I mean,
They
look
still
at the church sale. Whitey will tell you, Strawberry Festival, you'd have hundreds of bikes out there.
We still do. We have tons of bikes. We have the police agency monitoring because bikes and cars don't always do well on the same roads together.
Oh,
we're gonna
exactly.
try to, we're gonna
Especially
try to-
in Kathy's and my house, in front of our houses, right, Kathy?
It's terrible. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I lived on that street. I know.
But also from a business point of view, and I'll just throw this out here because people say bicyclers, or kayakers bring all this, revenue into the area. I would reach out and talk to some of the, whether it's the store owners, restaurant owners. Their past experience has not been that. So obviously we're not doing something correct if we have, and we've had huge groups of bicyclists. I can't, vouch for kayakers. And the revenue that comes is not, it's just not there.
No.
It just isn't.
Yes. No, it isn't. I can agree with that.
So I understand what everybody's saying, but my experience, at least in this area, it's, I hate to use the word, not against bicyclists, but it's rather obnoxious.
Well, I can also tell you, part of the problem is because of the type of facility that's there, the type of bicyclists you are likely attracting is the more hardcore bicyclists. And if you can change it so that you have families and other people that are not hardcore, but just out for a recreational ride, those are the folks that are going to more likely to stop, go to a restaurant, shop, because then you've got the whole family dynamic there. You've got all those folks in the family that may be interested in doing other things, and it changes. It's not just a hard ride on a bike. Like, people are getting exercise if you're a hardcore bike rider. Once you change the dynamic and you change the facilities, the type of bike rider you get is much more likely to be an additional shopper and an additional patron if you change that.
We want the touristy bikes on.
That's exactly right.
But then I have to say, you have to cross a ferry that costs you X amount of money to get here. And are they parking on the mainland side and taking your bike across, which at this point doesn't cost you anything? Then how do you access? So it's a unique area. I'm all for, people enjoying it. We just seem to be running into some stumbling blocks to make it happen. Or not.
Imagine how interesting it would be is if it got so popular, you actually built these large bike parking facilities on the mainland, and then people would just then come and rent them and take them across, or either you have it on the island, whatever, and just you build this business where I could see it really turning into something unique. There's if you read the paper, you can't buy a bike now unless it's like over $1,500. Everything under $1,500 is gone. And there's going to be a lot of people that own bikes after this pandemic is over, and they might be interested in using them. So take advantage of it.
I have to agree with you.
Yeah.
I just say we need to coordinate with the mainland and the island, and maybe in some of those aspects, whether it's biking, kayaking, or whatever, because.
Well, the biking nowadays also would include all those nice little motorized bicycles.
Yeah.
E-bikes.
Part of the issue, I think, is that Sans Souci didn't develop related to the ferry landing over time. It developed because of the steamboats.
Right.
And so ideally the ferry would land at Sans Souci or a downtown-like area. So that's the disconnect we're trying to make with the non-motorized plan, is to better connect the ferry to Sans Souci, since that's likely why people that don't live there are crossing over on bikes.
Well, technically, you need better access to the island, to be truthful.
Right.
Easier access to the island.
Reliable, safe.
Yes.
I didn't want to go there.
Well, you have to, but that's what you have.
I know. I know.
No, I think, again, as I said, that has anyone talked to our largest landowner on Harson's Island lately to see what he plans to do with all the property that he is encircling with fencing?
He wants to hunt.
That all?
That's what he says.
Yeah, I know.
Well, then he better do a better job, because I don't have any plants.
No, we have property, and I keep always talking about when we talk about a destination, the old Hunt Club property with that little building that was up there. I think he had 3 or 4 bedrooms up on the top, fully functioning kitchen, a little bar. bird watching, hunting, and that's never been developed at all. And again, I think, doesn't Kevin own that too?
No.
Yeah,
No, it's still,
I thought he did.
so
It,
that's still owned by,
Harson's Island, something or another. Kevin owned it for a very short period of time. There's a
oh,
lawsuit.
so he sold it.
No, he did not. It was a lawsuit. We'll leave it at that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So I mean,
Well, let me ask you this. Why don't, I mean, we're all talking about this. What about the Middle Channel Country Club that is now sitting under almost 2 feet of water?
Yeah.
That used to be one of the places, a destination point to the island. And I
Yes.
know that the builder's not going to do anything until there's a bridge, because he's not guaranteed service to the island.
Right. You've got two things. You've got the bridge, and then you've got the sanitary sewer. Those are the two things that are stopping the significant development.
You're right.
although when you talk about sanitary sewers, we have a lot of subdivisions nearby that have a joint septic system and they work quite well.
Sure. Well, yeah, it could be. It doesn't have to be
It's not that,
community wide. It can be something different. But yeah,
Right.
same way of addressing it.
Right, but Rod's right. We have to address it. I mean, that's going to be, if St. Susie's going to do anything and we expand the commercial district, we've got to worry about the toilets first. That's because that's one of the biggest hindrance right now with the health department. And either you're a pump and haul or you're nothing. I mean, look at the landing right there. 3 days a week, that's all you're allowed to run that organization over there. When I talk to the health department, what can you do for 3 days a week over there as a fully functioning kitchen? That's why
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Never make it.
well, that was it. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you sit empty, doing nothing the rest of the time. When people come over all the time here, some people just come for a ride for a day trip on a Monday, Tuesday. They do come.
So I guess we're back to the question of we need to maybe look at the sanitary before we go any further. I mean, we may have ideas, but we're kind of at a stalemate here. Until
Doesn't the old club have something?
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. But that's why I've been checking into this stuff, and I've talked to Whitey about that, making over there at the Lions Field maybe of something over there because they have the big enough piece of property, but how much water's there now?
Yeah, it's yeah.
We're underwater.
See what I'm saying? So we're back to square one again.
Right now might be a little difficult considering our high water issues we got going.
Right.
So.
But anyways, no, I agree with you, Rod. I think a bike deal, I mean, if we can get more people even to come over.
Well, we need people to come essentially into Clay Township because this use as indicated on page 2 of the insert that we got, where you show some mixed use along the road. If you're talking about walking and all the other aspects, you want both sides of the channels to be full of people.
Yes,
Sure.
yes. The mainland and the island.
Well, Rod, should we
All
move
right.
on to the next section?
Let's move on to industrial for a second. Your previous plan did call for the creation of an I2 district, more for outdoor storage. You don't currently have any property with that designation. You currently only have about 1% of your land area that's designated. I think about 55 acres is currently zoned or designated for industrial. That's a little on the low side. Typically, we have some benchmarks that we apply that would suggest that maybe you over the range of the plan that we're looking at, we'd want to look at doing some minor expansion. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. If currently, obviously, we have the Pizora piece that might be an area that would be an expansion into that just to match what that project. But we may want to look at going beyond that. And I just want to get your thoughts on how you see industrial land uses, and do you want to try to attract more? Do you not want to attract it? Do you have locations in mind? Any input you want to give us?
Any comments from the board?
I'd have to really sit down and look at that.
Anything we can do to make it less of a commuter township would be good.
Yep.
I agree with that 100%, Tom.
Okay.
Okay. Any plans for brownfield?
Brown, why? Recreational. All they want to do is conceivably build sanitary facility.
Yeah, that to me seems like a long-term recreational use.
Yes.
And you would want infrastructure too with industrial, typically, obviously.
Right.
Okay. Any more comments on industrial?
No, we have to look at that more in depth.
Okay.
As long as it's light.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I was gonna say in the past, of the last time when they were going around with the master plan, which is how many, 6, 7 years ago, it just kept coming up that maybe we're not the easily suited place to get in and out for materials to be delivered. That's why it makes it much more difficult for industrial type things to happen. But that's just from back 2012, was it? So I'm just throwing that out there for you, just because of our location.
Right.
Right. Well, we only have Starville to get out, right?
Right.
And the dike.
Right.
It just doesn't make it super conducive to get.
No, it doesn't.
So that's what we ran into the last time around thinking about those issues. So just throwing that out there for you.
Sure. No, I get it. I get it.
I think we're going to have to stay more of a recreational area.
I think that's what we said the last go around. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next is non-motorized, and we kind of touched on this briefly, but oops, hold on a second. This is, let me zoom in here. So this is the route that we're talking about. Give it a second to load. So basically, coming in as the main route that's always been identified is kind of following here that I'm showing you. We'll get that. It should have shown up as a different color on this map, but it didn't.
Yeah, I think that's supposed to show up as the Beta Bridge Trail.
Yeah, this is the what was called the Beta Bridge Trail that runs right through here. And we need to make sure that gets on this map because that should be identified. But then this is the other component that we're thinking would have the same cross section with the buffered bike facility, so you could get out to the DNR. You can enjoy the flats. You can get back around and then get over to the ferry or the bridge area, depending on what your mode of transportation is at that point. And then the rest of this the green you see would just be bike routes, which means it's for more casual looping around without any separate bike lane. It's just riding in the road, kind of a casual looping around. But for the hardcore getting in and trying to be the tourist facility, this would be the route you could come in. You could either go this way or go this way. And then obviously you can continue down here, but this would be the buffered bike lane through here to serve the commercial as well as the recreational opportunities on Harson's Island. And then,
that looks pretty.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that looks pretty cool. Yeah, I like that.
I think a lot of people would do this. It really, you get
That's
to see
actually
a lot.
nice. That's actually a nice bike ride along the water right there.
It's beautiful.
You know, many years ago, they opened up the DNR because I do this a lot. You can walk pretty much from Other
could
than,
walk all the, yeah, you're right. You could walk all around the DNR.
and you know how many times I run into people out there? It is very underutilized.
It is.
It's extremely underutilized, but I have a feeling also people are not really fond of ticks and the other things that come along with your walk right now. So I'm just saying, I know it's out there, it's for people to use, but my past experience in the last how many years, it doesn't seem to be. And right now, unfortunately, because of high water, that road's underwater.
Right. Yeah. And it won't be that way forever.
No, but I'm
Yeah,
just saying there's some improvements that would have to definitely be thought of in that department.
So we talked about the Bridge to Bay plan and the routes, and just wanted to get your general, do you think we're heading in the right direction with what we're talking about, where you'd have Point Trimble and Dyke as being the main routes on the mainland? And then we also see, let me go to this other map, we also see the potential for having a secondary facility that would run parallel to, because you're already going to have a facility along Dyke and Point Trimble, but another facility that would come back around and serve the backside, serving the school property back into the park. That seems to me like you would want to have a separate buffered bike lane facility through here as kind of a bypass, but also just to serve this area because it's in high demand. So that was another area we were thinking of as being a good location.
Does that include the new property acquisition?
I think it's in this general area. That's a good question.
That's nice because it pulls them all into the park there, right?
Right, it goes all around the park.
Yeah, this is the park.
Yeah, the park is right.
Yeah,
there.
right there. Yep.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're thinking about there. And then while we're talking about that too, I got to bring up another map. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to bring up a few years ago, we did a little analysis of the potential for where the bridge would go. And that was basically coming right here through Riverview Campground Marina would be the location that was identified. And I'm trying to see if I got the other map on here. I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. No, I don't have that. But anyway, that, open that back up. So that would then go straight across over to Harson's Island. We had done a little analysis, and that's what we're looking to show as a conceptual bridge connection on the master plan. So we wanted to get your thought on that.
Yeah.
Well, they still own the property, purportedly, and that was
They
They
do.
own they own the property on Martha Jean's.
Yeah, I thought it was over.
On that side, and they own the Riverview Campground. Now Mackey Boatworks, I'm not sure about that one though.
They don't own it.
That's what I kind of thought they didn't.
But they do own a lot of property that most people aren't even aware of. But.
right.
Oh yeah, I know.
Okay.
They're not going to like the bridge whatsoever.
What was that?
We know where that bridge will go.
It'll have to come eventually. It'll have to.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, well, it's going to have to because the island's dying.
Since about 1970.
Yep.
Thank you. That's
Okay, so Rod, that's the.
I would leave it there, Rod.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Yeah, that's that. Without diving into more of the plan, I guess if you have any other questions of the plan draft, we're basically continuing along this general path the way based on your input, and our hope is that next month we're going to have pretty close to a complete draft for you to look at. So we're
great.
We're barreling ahead, and we appreciate your input.
Sounds
And,
good.
And once you get that,
question.
Draft,
Digest.
When will we be able to sort of have a public hearing, you think?
I would say You're probably looking at realistically September,
Yeah, no.
because you've got to send it out for comment first.
Yeah.
And so that, I don't think it could be earlier than September.
And it probably would have to wait until we finally have to have some closer contact than trying to do that over a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I guess that's going to be a question that we'll have to address when we get closer to that. So we'll see.
Okay.
Any further comments regarding the master plan from anybody, or?
No, I think we're going in the right direction.
Okay.
I like it.
Now all we need is money.
That's right.
I thought you were loaning us the money, Whitey.
Well, and actually the master plan helps you, because when you have things in your master plan, it makes it easier to apply for grants, and
yes,
you'll get funded if they're in your master plan. So you're on the
No,
right
we
direction.
found that out, that as long as we have it in the master plan, we have some reason to talk about it. If it's not there, you can't even get anybody to talk to you about it.
Exactly.
And it gives us direction, right?
Yeah.
Well, Rhonda, thank you very much for the presentation, for all your hard work up to this point. We look forward to seeing how this comes together in the next meeting.
Nice.
Thank you. Thanks for the input.
Yeah, and I would suggest if any commissioners have any comments after the fact, because sometimes we think of things afterwards, send them to Cindy Babish and she can forward on to our planners. So don't hesitate to wait to the next meeting if you have any, oh my gosh, I should have said something, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm sure our planners would be happy to deal with that. How about we move on to item number 9, which would be the ZBA representative's report, which would be Harold.
Well, the boathouse was the only thing that I had to talk about, the height of the boathouse. That was the main topic of basically the ZBA meeting, of the 3 boathouses that they were there.
Okay.
So
Well,
that was, they wanted me to bring that up and stress that to us, but after they sat and figured it out, the guy didn't even need it. So the people have to understand what they're looking at before they come and start complaining. I hate to say it, you know, they got to understand how to draw prints and how to look at the prints the right way.
But doesn't that start with the building department even?
No, it actually starts when you have to deliver a print to the building department. The building department inspects it, but the guy came in with prints that were drawn up by Lumberjack, and they weren't the right ones. He told us they weren't the right ones, and okay, I get that. But
so how was it processed to your board if they didn't have the right plans?
We don't even want to go there.
Forget it.
I don't want to go there.
Forget it. Sorry.
Anything further, Harold?
No, ma'am.
All right. I thank you for your report. I'm going to move on to item number 10, board representatives report, which is Mark.
That's me. Okay. So we approved, the board approved the blue water material soil removal permit. So they should be in operation. The Clay Township offices will be open June 1st. Restricted hours from 8 to 12, and then down for an hour for sanitizing, and then from 1 to 6. So that's a plus. And I'd like to welcome Chris, if you haven't already done so, to the Planning Commission.
Welcome.
And I'd like to hear a response on his first meeting. Or maybe not. That's all I have. Thanks.
I do have a question for you, Mark. Just curious. How did everything go with Pizorus as far as our recommendations with the attorney looking at stuff and or berm issues or anything like that? Because I didn't get a chance to watch the meeting. So I was just curious how that played out.
You're going to have to repeat that, Kathy. I'm sorry.
When we made our recommendation to the board, there was a couple of items in there. One was the road access, one was the berm issue that I believe had to go to ZBA. And I think you just let us know that everything is taken care of and they're in operation. I was just curious how all that played out since I believe you were at the meeting.
Right. As far as the berm is concerned, we're going to leave the trees in place for now and see how that pans out. And they're pretty much on a probation period, if that's what you want to call it. Of course, we have the the right to go back in there at any time and inspect it and make sure they're doing the right thing. If they're not, we'll pull a permit. As far as the Island Drive Road, is that what the other one? The sand issue or the dust issue? Is that what you were talking about?
The access road, yeah.
That was long.
Yeah, they're continuing to keep the dust down with their water tank.
And was there any bond issue discussion?
Nope. They didn't do there was a bond wasn't recognized. No, there was. I did bring it up, and it was deemed not necessary through the attorney.
Was that the same thing with the berm issue too? Because I thought they had to go to ZBA.
Oh, on the berm issue?
Yeah.
No, it was the board just with that recommendation approved the permit and leaving the trees in place and not the berm until we see something different. So we didn't want to cut the trees down. So if the noise is going to be too severe for the residents, then we will put the berm up.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question. Yeah, is that stated on the plans that were returned to the building department and to the applicant? And was that signed, and was the part about future use removed from the plans?
The future use was a mute issue.
How can it be if it's on the plan?
Well, you have to check with the building department to see what it is. It's kind of hard to see any of this stuff on Zoom, so.
I watched the meeting, and the plans that were turned into the council, it still had future use on it,
Yeah.
but it was supposed to be removed when it got to the building department. But I have a question. How can the board circumvent going to ZBA? I have to know that, because why do we have ordinances if the board is going to circumvent that? We could have called an emergency meeting for 18 hours to have ZBA look at it and give their blessing.
Basically,
That's what I have to know.
Yeah, basically the premise was the statutory state of Michigan defined it as an emergency situation, which did not impact the residents on a severe nature.
It did not impact. Well, that opens us up for a lot of stuff on that, being that it didn't go to the ZBA, because I didn't think that that was an emergency. I mean, the Pizorics have been going through this since it came to the ZBA the first time to us, and they were told to come there that was the wrong thing for them to do. They should have came to the planning commission, but somebody in the township said, oh no, you got to go to the ZBA. Now we're telling them they don't have to go to the ZBA to get an ordinance change? Because that's circumventing an ordinance.
Well, I was surprised they went to the ZBA. They should have gone with you. They should have gone to the planning commission first. So, I don't know. I don't know how that got crossways. Really don't. I
think I know, but I didn't know the board could just do that. I'm missing this.
Well,
Maybe I'm wrong.
My memory of the meeting, when it came to the berm issue, they were saying they were going to have to take their trees down. We told them, no, they didn't need to take those trees down. And they said they were going to take them down to sell the wood to recoup more money. And that was part of our decision, was that they had to have that berm in place for noise. And I watched part of the meeting before tonight's planning commission meeting. I watched part of the township board meeting, and the supervisor had said he didn't feel it was necessary because they'd have to take all these trees down, and that they had to come to the township every year for a renewal, and they would pretty much look at it on a year-by-year basis and see how the neighbors deal with if there's more noise or not.
Right. That's exactly how it went down.
And I guess I'm just concerned from the fact that I thought we were very clear through our attorneys and other sources that none of us had the authority to waive a berm. Why do we have ordinances? Why do we not waste our time, but spend our time and energy doing this? And then here we are. So, and I know we're already getting heat from, why did you guys do this? Why didn't you have a public hearing? You didn't listen to anything. So, and Mark, like it or not, you sit both on as a trustee and on our planning commission. And I guess it's a curiosity what happened, because we were very clear that we weren't supposed to be waiving berm issues. It needed to go to the ZBA. So now that we're already getting some feedback and getting pushback about what do we do, I believe the planning commission made the recommendation and made it right. So I was just curious from the board point of view where you guys sat, what happened. So I guess you gave us your answer. Whether we like it or not, it's a different story. So,
Well, if you did watch the meeting, you noticed that I actually read that statement on that Michigan statute. So, and I left it at that. I said, so, and at the end of it, I said, so here we are. And then I left it up to the board.
Gotcha.
I did hear that, Mark.
Basically, then what you're saying is the board invalidated a part of the ordinance by just ignoring the fact and not sending the applicant to the zoning board of appeals to review it, since we were not the authorizing body to do that.
Well, I wasn't in control of the meeting.
Oh, no, I know. No. We're just trying to find out what caused the board then, though, to approve it without perhaps checking with the attorney or with somebody who can give us a reading whether you can dismiss part of an ordinance. That's simply.
Yeah, that's a case for someone like Rod or the township attorney. And the premise for approving it basically is that we needed the sand. And I got that from numerous people. We needed the sand, and even Tom Quazell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I get that, but that's not a good precedent to set. We've opened the door now.
Yeah.
How
Well,
can we
I
deny
think
any
one time can't be a precedent, but you know, you do it
Well,
several
how do you
times.
say no to the next guy? How do you say no to the next person that comes along?
Wait a minute. I want to know who said the one time, because no, it's been a lot more than one time. There's a lot of it been going on. Why do we even make ordinance? We're not even enforcing what we're writing?
There's a lot of executive orders going around these days.
Well, Tom, I don't deny that.
Just as long as I can get my boat in the water.
Well, with that being said, Mark, thank you for your report from your
Thanks.
point of view. I get that.
It does sound like they made some sort of compromise a bit, though, that, you know, they're gonna look at it later. They do need the sand now. We have more shoreline than practically half of Michigan.
I'm not under the impression, though, if you were to speak to an attorney, that was followed correctly. So, but I guess the township board did what they did. So they're gonna have to live with it. It's not planning commission. I can say
Right.
that much.
Correct.
But who signed the site plan? We usually have to sign 3 copies of that. Was that done?
It's township board.
They did sign them?
I don't know. I assume.
Okay, thank you.
On to item number 11, chairperson's report. I really don't have anything to report other than, again, thanks. Chris is our new board member who replaced Ed Keller. Welcome aboard. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us. How's that? Okay. Again, everybody, thank you for participating by Zoom. Appreciate it. Number 12 is planning commission members' comments. Any comments?
I want to thank our planning consultants for the 96-page report that I got in my email. Thank you.
Weekend reading, yes, you're welcome.
Rod really
I had
to
to put it twice.
It's a good report, though,
That's
from what I've
awesome.
read so far.
Thank you.
As usual.
Thanks to my very talented staff for pulling a lot of that together. Very good.
Yeah, Matt was very nice to send that on. Any other board comments?
Is that who that guy was, Matt?
No.
That was a joke.
By the way, anybody giving haircuts?
Matt's now looking for one right now. He's quite happy with where he's
Let
at.
it go.
Let it go.
Drive to Canada.
There you go, easy. Okay, item number 13 is public comments. Christine Holcomb, or yeah, do we see anybody?
Nope. Got
Okay.
nobody.
I'm kind of surprised. I would thought we might have had some public wanting to participate with these public hearings, but okay.
I even put the notice on next door.
Oh, you did? Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, we took some backlash from the last meeting.
Yep.
Because they said we didn't have any public comments. And I'm looking at, from the minutes, we had quite a few public comments. So I don't know what everybody's talking about.
Yeah,
Well, they were saying there was no notice either.
Yeah, well,
They
that's
never received notice.
for this meeting or the last meeting?
last meeting.
Last one.
Oh, okay.
And it seemed like everybody else knew it, but certain people.
One of these days we'll get back to not doing the Zoom thing. We'll see. Or maybe part and part, but okay, since there is no public comments, I'm going to move on to item number 14. Whitey,
So moved.
Second.
Second.
all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you again, everybody, for participating.
Thank you.
Planners,
Wonderful, wonderful meeting, Artie.
Take care.
Everybody,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
be healthy.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.